I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the Vietnam Veterans News Podcast. News of interest about Vietnam veterans from a Vietnam veteran. Now, here's your host, Mac Payne.
Hello, podcast listeners. This is Mac Payne here with episode 2917 of the Vietnam Veteran News Podcast, where we bring you news about the Vietnam War and the brave veterans who served there, as told to you by yours truly, a Vietnam veteran. In this episode, I will continue my program of paying tribute to Vietnam War heroes who received the Congressional Medal of Honor for their service over there. I do this because it has to be done. I have to help make sure the names and deeds of these great Americans are forever remembered in this country. They must be, because the people I talk about here did something tremendous for their country. Another reason I share these stories with you is to help build the patriotism of the USA. When you hear about these brave people who served their country over there in Vietnam and did such brave things, you cannot help but be proud of the country that produced them. In this episode, I'm going to tell you about Thomas James Kinsman. Thomas was another one of those brave individuals who threw himself on top of a live grenade to protect his fellow soldiers. Thank the good Lord above. Thomas Kinsman survived that blast. Not only did he survive, but he went on to go back home in Washington State, get married, have 7 children, and then live until his passing on May the 15th, 2017, at the ripe old age of 72. When he went back home to Washington State, he became a farmer and did that the rest of his life. He was a wonderful individual, which you're going to soon discover. Thomas James Kinsman was a United States Army soldier and a recipient of the United States military's highest decoration, the Medal of Honor, for his actions in the Vietnam War. Over at the Fallen Yet Not Forgotten website, they published a wonderful story about Thomas Kinsman. It's so good, I'm going to share it with you. I'll guarantee you after you hear it, you're going to feel a whole lot better about some of the people this country produces. I urge you to pay your respect to the memory of Thomas Kinsman by listening carefully to what I'm going to tell you about him. The best way to do that is to get rid of all the noisemakers in the immediate vicinity. Look around the room, find the most comfortable chair. Sit yourself down in that chair and listen carefully to what I'm going to tell you about Thomas James Kinsman. With that in mind, let's take a look at it. Dateline, Toledo, Washington. Title of the story is The Inspiring Story of Thomas James Kinsman. Thomas James Kinsman, born on March the 14th, 1945, passed away on May the 15th, 2017. He was a United States Army soldier whose extraordinary heroism during the Vietnam War earned him the United States military's highest decoration, the Medal of Honor. His selfless act of bravery, which saved the lives of his fellow soldiers, stands as a testament to his courage and dedication. This story delves into the life of Thomas Kinsman, from his early struggles to his post-war career, highlighting the defining moments that shaped his legacy. Before I begin, I do encourage you to go over to the podcast website, VietnamVeteranNews.com, check out episode 2917, and there you will see a picture of a young Thomas Kinsman with his Medal of Honor. Looking at that picture, you can just tell he was a wonderful individual. Continuing with the story. Early lives and struggles. Thomas James Kinsman was born on March the 4th, 1945, in Renton, Washington. He spent his formative years in Onalaska, Washington, before moving to Toledo, Washington. Kinsman's early life was marked by the typical challenges of growing up in a small town, but these experiences helped forge his resilience and determination. Despite the obstacles, Kinsman pursued his education with a steadfast commitment, attending high school in Onalaska. A note here. I might take just a little issue with the writer when they said that Thomas faced the typical challenges of growing up in a small town. I did not realize there were that many challenges in growing up in a small town. Continuing. Military enlistment and heroics. In 1967, at the age of 22, Kinsman enlisted in the United States Army from Seattle, Washington. His decision to join the military was driven by a sense of duty and a desire to serve his country during a time of conflict. A note here. I believe that makes Thomas Kinsman a real hero. He joined the Army right in the middle of a war because he wanted to serve his country. Continuing. By February the 6th, 1968, he was serving as a PFC in Company B, 3rd Battalion, 60th Infantry of the 9th Infantry Division, way down south, actively participating in Operation Coronado 10 in the Republic of Vietnam. Another note here. I always say a little prayer of thanks because I spent 2 years in Vietnam up north in the mountains. That was a thrill for a Florida Flatlander like myself. Plus, we didn't have to walk through all those swamps those guys in the 9th Division had to do down south. Enough of that. Continuing. The defining moment of Kinsman's military career occurred during a fierce firefight near Vien Long, Vietnam. On that fateful day, his company came under intense enemy fire from a well-entrenched Viet Cong force. Amidst the chaos and heavy gunfire, Kinsman and a group of 8 soldiers became separated from the main company. As they navigated through the dense undergrowth, an enemy soldier threw a grenade in their midst. Without hesitation, Kinsman shouted a warning to his comrades and threw himself on the grenade, absorbing the explosion with his body. His actions saved the lives of the 7 other men in his group, but left him with severe head and chest wounds. But thankfully, he survived those wounds and went on to live a long life. Continuing. Post-war life and career. After recovering from his injuries, Kinsman was promoted to Specialist 4 and awarded the Medal of Honor for his valor. In 1971, he married Dolores Binion, and the couple settled in Toledo, Washington, where they raised 7 children. Kinsman transitioned to a quieter life, dedicating himself to farming and his family. His post-war years were marked by the same dedication and resilience that had defined his military service. Another note, apparently Thomas was not afflicted with PTSD. He and his wife had 7 children, and he spent a career in farming. That's some more points in his favor. Thomas James Kinsman's extraordinary bravery was recognized with the Medal of Honor, the highest military decoration awarded by the United States. His official citation highlighted his conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity in action at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty. This prestigious award reflected the profound impact of his actions on that February day in Vietnam, underscoring his commitment to his fellow soldiers and his country. Thomas James Kinsman's life story is one of courage, selflessness, and unwavering dedication. From his humble beginnings in Washington to his heroic actions on the battlefield and his peaceful post-war life, Kinsman's legacy serves as an enduring inspiration. His willingness to sacrifice his own life to save others exemplifies the highest ideals of the military service and heroism. As we remember his remarkable journey, we honor not only his bravery, but also the enduring spirit of those who serve their country with distinction. There you have the story of Vietnam veteran Thomas James Kinsman. His story definitely proves the point often made on this podcast. The Vietnam veteran generation is as great as any that ever heeded the call of duty from our country. That's exactly what Thomas Kinsman exemplified. America is so incredibly fortunate to have people like Thomas Kinsman who are willing to serve the country in the military during wartime, and when the time comes, to do something heroic. Thomas James Kinsman, you were and still are a great one. Rest in peace, sir. On behalf of a grateful nation and all of our fellow Vietnam veterans, I hereby issue you an official Vietnam Veteran News Podcast salute. Thank you very much for your service. That is my opinion, and I am sticking to it. This is Mike Payne closing out episode 2917 of the Vietnam Veteran News Podcast. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. You are cordially invited to return again soon and often to listen to more that will be coming your way on this podcast, the Vietnam Veteran News. Again, thank you for listening. Thomas James Kinsman, this is for you and the memory of your service to your country.